All right, we have another segment out for you guys today, and this one's a pretty special one. We are going to talk about the MLB new rules the MLB is having. We'll talk about the new DH in the NL, and then we'll also talk about other rules that will come into effect for the shortened season. So it should be fun. Let's get right into it.
Thanks, Drew, for telling us about what we're going to talk about today. Really excited. So everyone wants to hear about a special guest. So a little bit about him. We went to Roosevelt High School together. He's been a longtime friend of ours, even starting from middle school, elementary school. We went to the University of Puget Sound for 2 years together. He swam while he was there. He transferred to UW, so he recently graduated from the U. Knows a lot about sports, big Mariners fan, big Seahawks fan. We've always done fantasy sports together. And then he also has his own fashion business with Anna Gibbon called Drift Apparel, so make sure to check that out on Instagram. A lot of really cool stuff. But yeah, we're excited to have him, and let's get into it. Okay, we're back. Now we're going to talk about some of the new rules that the MLB has changed, such as a league-wide DH, runners starting on second. We can go into some of the other ones if we want to, but we're going to mostly focus on those two. Okay, so gut reactions from you guys on these rule changes.
I'm in favor.
I'm pretty excited. Yeah.
You go,
you guys like the league-wide DH then? You think it makes most sense?
Yes, I do. I think pitchers have shown to be not the best hitters. I think the best pitcher right now is Michael Lorenzo, and he's batting .247. But yet he has not had 100 at-bats. So, I mean, obviously that will go down with more experience. I think the average hitter or average pitcher is hitting around 200 or maybe below that. So I think just canceling that out will further enhance the play of the game and make it better. So I'm in full agreement with this.
Sean?
Yeah, you build up through not even to enhance the play of the game, but also the experience of watching the game. I think it'll just become more entertaining because when the pitcher comes up, it's typically like a bunt or like an instant out. Most of the time, like you said, average pitcher maybe hits 200 if they're even the best hitter within their class.
Yeah.
So I think adding a DH in the National League would allow a player like a Nelson Cruz kind of individual who adds that extra pop in the lineup and makes the game more fun to watch, but like you said, makes it a better game to play.
I kind of agree with that too, because Nelson Cruz, is now kind of isolated just to the AL, right? He is not, he doesn't really, he is now considered a full-time DH. Yeah. You can stick him there for the NL for a little bit. But some of these guys, like Daniel Vogelbach as well, they're only able to play in the AL with the DH. So this will also open up the game for other players, and it will make it more fun. And yeah, Rita, do you have any thoughts on this?
No, yeah, I think it's great because you provide more opportunities for NL teams and the players, right? So we're not going to see Encarnacion, Nelson Cruz ever go to an NL team again, or I don't think they ever were, or at least Nelson Cruz was always in the AL. But it limits opportunities to only 16 teams, which is, I think it's doable. But it'd be great if Nelson Cruz had options to go to all the teams in the MLB, and to kind of play, look at the other side. So pitchers. When we think of good hitting pitchers, we think of, Michael Lorenzen, like you said, Zach Greinke, Madison Bumgarner. And I have some numbers on them. So Michael Lorenzen hit .290 last year, but he's not a starting pitcher. So he comes in to pinch hit a lot. So it's kind of a different situation. He's not always pitching and hitting at the same time. Sometimes they'll keep him in the lineup when he's coming into relief. Greinke hit .271 in 2019 for the Diamondbacks before being traded to the Astros. And he's a career .225 hitter. And Madison Bumgarner hit .127 in 2019. And his career line is a .177. That's Mike Zunino-esque.
Yeah, that's pretty terrible.
So when we think about, good hitters
without the pop.
Yeah, exactly. So when we think about good hitting pitchers, they're not that good. Greinke hit pretty good, .271 last year, but .225 career, that's not that special. I think you said Lorenzen's about .240 or somewhere around there. Career hitting, right?
Yeah, so career it's .247 actually.
.247, okay. So that's
but
respectable.
He hasn't had 100 at-bats, so.
Okay, so that's respectable, but if I were an NL GM, I'd easily want a hitter that could hit .260 with a couple bombs, or I don't know, depending on the strategy and what their lineup is like. But I think I'd rather have a more consistent guy. But as far as the pitcher's perspective, right? Part of their hitting could be a part of why they're valuable. I don't know, like knowing that Michael Lorenzen can also be a good pinch hitter. Maybe he could transition to utility position. Zach Greinke can also be, a good hitter as a starting pitcher. But at the same time, we don't see that too often. I don't know how much value that actually goes into, a GM's mind anyway. So I feel like just getting rid of that and just going full DH, there aren't that many negative consequences with it, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And like highlighting another positive to adding a DH too. I mean, like, when Felix Hernandez was, pitching out of his mind with the Mariners, God, that's how many years ago. But I remember when he hit that grand slam. But obviously,
yeah,
like that's one example. But yeah. I'm sure the pitching coach for the Mariners did not want him hitting.
Exactly.
It's also about like preserving the pitcher's arm, like their health, because their one task is like pitch the ball for hopefully 7 innings. So I think having a DH would allow them, to be a little bit safer probably at the plate.
I remember when Felix Hernandez was, like you said, complete god for the Mariners pitching-wise. Mm-hmm. And whenever they played an NL team, it was apparent that the pitching staff for the Mariners did not want Felix to play in those games because they've had fear. Felix has had injuries with his ankles. So, bursting out to first base right after a hit could get him injured. So a lot of the pitching staff just didn't want him pitching in those games, which is really interesting and tells a lot because obviously when you're drafting a pitcher, you value his arm and not his bat.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
I have a couple of notes on the whole injury thing. So I looked up some notable injuries that pitchers had, being on the field, from the offensive side. And there aren't that it's like doesn't happen that often. So I think it wasn't this. I'm sure it's part of the concern, like, trainers and coaches, like, we don't want pitchers on the field, but there aren't that many injuries to maybe push this conversation and have this, rule change earlier.
Sure.
But if you guys remember in 2019, Max Scherzer, do you remember when he had the black eye?
Okay.
Do you guys remember that? He pitched with his black eye. He had a broken nose. Do you guys remember how that happened?
I'm guessing he got hit in the face with the ball.
Yeah, pretty much. But it was during BP.
Oh.
So he was practicing bunting. It deflects off his bat and hits his eye, and he breaks his nose. He ends up pitching, but a pitcher would not be in that situation if there was a DH. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So again, this is kind of like a freak accident. Maybe he wasn't really taking it seriously. But even then, like the fact that it could happen during BP, imagine in a game.
Yeah.
That Scherzer, I don't know. That's a whole lot more surgery he has to go through. I have a similar example. Ryan Vogelsong in 2016 was hit by a pitch in the face during the game. I don't think we've heard about him for a while. I don't know if he's ever made it back to MLB. Again, that's like a rare example because hit by pitches we don't want it to happen. It doesn't happen that often anyways, or that could happen to a hitter too. So
sure.
Same way, Adam Wainwright, who's also kind of notable for his hitting and comfortableness at the plate. In 2015, after hitting a pop fly, after he broke the first base,
right?
Do you remember he limped and that was I think his whole Achilles was
Achilles,
torn. Yeah. And that after 2015, I don't know if Adam Wainwright's actually been the same kind of dominant pitcher. He's been okay, but he's also old. But granted, I don't think he's really ever been the same. Maybe, yeah. And then one last one in 2018 from the Yankees, Chin-Min Wong. Who's probably a big part in the Yankees rotation. He was 8-2, had a 4.07 ERA into June, and then he badly injured his knee rounding third base and did not return the rest of the season.
Yeah, at this, it might be rare, but the 4 that you just said, why even risk him? Because the pitcher is the most expensive thing you have on the team. He can provide you 7 innings. And they're usually a top paying on the league. So if you don't value his hitting and you're not paying him for his hitting, the massive contract, then I don't even think it's worth it. Mm-hmm. Sean, what do you think about maybe what other people are saying? Could it be useful? So let me propose you a question.
Sure.
Let me say, and also to you, Viola, as well.
Mm-hmm.
But what if I said that it takes away strategy? What's your take? Go.
Yeah, I guess I can see like it taking away some strategy. I think we had mentioned this previously in another conversation, but I think yeah, I mean if you take away like a pitch like a pitch that would hit, excuse me. Some people like Joe Madden who are like pretty creative coaches, place their pitchers in different parts of the lineup. I think yeah, like there's a lot less thought that may be put into their lineup. But at the same time, I think, having a DH, you still have to put that DH somewhere in your lineup. So it doesn't take away too much strategy, in my opinion. I think you're right. It does lessen the sport a little bit in that sense, but I don't think too much.
When reading more and more about the critics and, the two sides of this argument, you can kind of think of it as politics and government. You have a very liberal side that's willing to change the game and adapt, and you have a very conservative side that's not willing to change. And I think especially in baseball, the ones that don't want the rule changes, that are I consider them like traditionalists. They love the way the game's played. They're all based on history. But, I mean, you have to start changing. And, baseball is changing already. Like, we have video review, we have, timers. The game's adapting, and I think these are kind of born to happen. And I think there's more positive consequences as opposed to negative consequences with adding the league-wide DH. I think you could argue that, if there were more pitchers that were hitting very well in the NL, and then you could argue that, yeah, we should keep the game the way it is. But, I mean, we don't see it too often. But I do want to bring up an interesting point. So if Shohei Ohtani was in the National League, I think there would be another conversation about this. But the fact that Ohtani's in the AL, it doesn't really apply. You can't really use him as an argument, right? So,
good point.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to imagine what would happen if Ohtani was playing, I don't know, for the Marlins or something. What would the conversation be from them, the NL and the AL then?
Yeah. So yes, that is actually a good point you bring up, because I know the Rays have somebody similar, like a two-way player.
Right, yeah.
I think my stance would still be with Shohei, and without Shohei, I think it would still change to universal DH, just because the pitchers have been notoriously bad, and I don't think it would change to have one person. And we see with the Angels, they try and get him into the lineup, so he plays, I believe, left field or maybe first base. I don't know, or DH probably.
Yeah, they're trying to figure it out. Yeah.
So like I just think it's just the sample size is too much to not take into consideration. Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Drew. I think Shohei Ohtani, I think whether or not he was in the AL or in NL, I think he would just be treated as an outlier, because like he's a freak of an athlete, and no doubt about that. But at the same time, it's like, where take away Shohei Ohtani, where else do we stand? And that's what we had just mentioned before.
Since we're talking about Ohtani, I kind of just thought about this, even though this is a little off topic. But getting Ohtani to throw 100 pitches on a Monday and then having it come back and pitch on a Sunday or a Saturday, right? How many games can you play a week? Whether it's DH or if he's on the field. What are some ways you think that if you were coach, GM, how would you set your lineup and how would you put him into your team?
Sean, I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, I think it's a great question now, especially. I mean, I think the shortened season will be interesting. I mean, I don't know. Is he going to be coming back for the shortened season with his injuries?
I think he might just be hitting. I'll fact check it. You keep going.
Yeah, he might just be hitting. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I think with his injuries that he had, for this last season, I think it poses an interesting thought, because, if you pitch him, on like the every 5-day rotation, you typically would for a normal pitcher, how are you going to utilize him in your lineup with this bat? And I think especially now with the shortened season, it might be smart for a coach, to maybe pitch him on one of his days and then let him sit his next rotation if you want to use him in your lineup. You small sample size, 60 games. You're taking away more than half of the games throughout the regular season. So it'll be interesting to see how they want to utilize him. But again, if he's not pitching, then I'm assuming they're just going to use his bat. So I think his bat's going to be really valuable.
Yeah, you're correct. I think the Angels are trying to pitch him only on one day, so like a Sunday, and then have him fresh the whole day. So that's a good point. I mean, I didn't take into account that.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to also tie into because there have been talks about potentially going to 6-man rotation. The Mariners are thinking about it. I know there's some advocates from Japan, especially, who want a 6-man because that's how they do it in the Japanese league.
Yeah.
So I wonder, if you're in the Angels, you want to utilize Ohtani as much as you can, but you also have an aging out approvals at first base. So I wonder if you teach Ohtani how to play first base, go to a 6-man rotation so he can play first base a couple of days. Because you're not going to have him play on the field the day after he pitches 100 pitches, right? Maybe by Thursday or Friday, maybe he could play on the field a little bit and play first where he doesn't have to throw too much. But it's just an interesting thing to think about. The game is changing. We're going to have more players like Ohtani, like Brandon McKay, from the Rays, like you said, is a two-way. Hunter Green, I don't know if you can still consider him a two-way or not, but
Green,
I think we're going to see more and more of that, and it'll be interesting to see because the game's going to change. I mean, coaches are adapting. We're going to have Joe Madden-like revolutionaries, and it's going to happen. So it'll be interesting to see.
Well, I think if they do have a 6-man rotation, I think it just means teams have to invest into a rotation player, right? They have to invest into another starting pitcher. I think what they're doing for the shortened season is they're having 30 players on a roster, so that's 5 more than they usually do. So maybe that will be helpful in the aspect of maybe they won't drain Shohei Ohtani's arm as much, So maybe they'll preserve that. I think it's really tough, especially. Do you guys know what his injury was? I think it was an ace. Was it something with his arm?
ACL, I think.
ACL.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think he got like a minor Tommy John surgery.
Okay, Tommy. Yeah.
UCL. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So even with that, I think the Angels are very cautious. So I mean, he probably won't throw 100 pitches. I think maybe he'll go 3 innings, maybe 4 innings. And then we'll see him back on the field, because I think the Angels do have to take into account what they value the most out of him. They can't do it 50%, because then you don't get anything out of that. You have to go either I'm going to value his arm, so I'm going to pitch him 2 days a week, or I value his hitting, I'm going to pitch him 1. So
here's a thought: you keep Ohtani in as a DH or an on-field player, but you move him to the closer spot.
Sean, you want to talk about this? I don't think he has the stuff to do it.
I hear what you're saying, Rigotta. I just think the closer role is a position that I think it's overvalued in baseball, to be honest. And I think putting Ohtani there, even if he hits, I think it completely diminishes his value to a certain extent. I mean, so with that in mind, I think if anything, like a long relief position, like a long relief role where he comes in the middle innings, just 2-3 innings, I think that's more realistic with him. But I don't think the closer role would fit him. True.
I also think the closing role is a different kind of breed, and I don't think I think it would just feel like, I don't know. I think it's just too tough to you're going to have to pitch every single day if you're winning, right? If you have a 1 game thing. So maybe only going 1 inning compared to maybe 7 innings every 5 days or 6 days. I don't know. I think it's tough to be a closer. So I don't think so.
It's tough too.
I agree with you guys on that point. Switching to closer role is probably hard, but it could be interesting to see, right? If we have him DH every single day, and then when it comes to 9th inning, if you guys are up 2 runs, you kill the DH and
just gas.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting thought.
It could be interesting. Yeah.
Are we good? I think we're on consensus with the DH, right? I think the DH is pretty good. I think it also
one last point too.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I think I previously mentioned, but the emphasis you talked about the traditionalists within baseball and the progressives, let's just say. And I think the progressive. I mean, Rob Manfred came in as a commissioner with one of his goals was trying to increase viewership and make the game more exciting. And I don't think he's done a great job. I don't know if he's done a great job as commissioner as a whole, but I think there's a step forward in terms of making the game more exciting. And I think allowing people to, maybe it's a small change, but at the same time, it's, it's more home runs. And that's what gets people in the stands, watching those big, using the home run chase with Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire, and Ken Griffey Jr. I think that too.
Exactly. I think you're right. Yeah.
Awesome.
Because whenever, I mean, obviously we don't watch the NL as much because we're in the AL for the Mariners. But whenever I watch those kind of games and I see the pitcher's going to be up this this stance or this inning or this half inning, I don't know. I don't think I get as much excitement out of it just because I'm like, okay, if there's not gonna be a runner to move over, then he's probably not gonna do much. And then even if he is on the base field, we're not gonna see him steal, right? So it's just like I think it's long overdue, and I can see why people want to keep it the same because it's been there for so long. But there's got to be you have to start making it fun or more exciting with the chance, like Sean said, the ability for people to have home runs. So
devil's advocate once more is you just lose Bartolo Colado.
Okay, well,
tough, you don't get those memes, but it's okay.
Well, yeah, that's true. Gosh, he's been in the league for so long.
Yeah, it's incredible.
He's been how old is he? Like 45? I remember when he was
beyond 40.
I remember when he was tested positive for PEDs, and I was like, wow, this guy. And then he's bounced back with the Mets.
He really bounced back, yeah.
That was like, oh gosh, that's crazy. Okay. Yeah. So, and then let's move on to the new rule that they're implementing this season. Runner is going to start on second base for extra inning games. Thoughts?
I think the rule is good in terms of what the MLB is trying to do. Again, so many traditionalist critiquers, whatever you want to call them, they hate this rule. They absolutely hate this rule, and they're like, no fucking way. I wasn't supposed to swear. Like, no way. This is terrible for the game. They're doing it just for the money. But I mean, you're proving the point. Yeah, I mean, the sport is a business. So in a way, the critiquers are saying MLB is doing what they're going to do in the first place. I know this rule, I've had this rule apply a lot when I play baseball. So like in like tournaments, where there's like 20 teams and there's back-to-back games, where there's like a time limit and they try to make sure, games start on time. This was a rule that was applied a lot. Extra innings, runner starts with second base, or extra innings, maybe the second time around, runner starts to third base, just to try to make the game move faster and end quicker. So I think, right, there aren't that many extra inning games in general. I looked at the numbers, but I think it helps prevent 14-inning games and stuff like that, especially during the restart, because we're worried about pitchers' health. If we get into the 16th inning games, but starters are only throwing 70 pitches, they're not going to get into the game as further, and then maybe we have to see position players pitch. And I think they just want to avoid as much of that as possible to make sure health is important, but also, to make sure the game just go faster. That's my initial thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I think to that point, the number is like 9% of all games, like last year, 9% of all games went to extras. And it seems like a small number, but I think that's also like quite large in comparison to how many games are on the season. But at the same point, I think you're right. I think having a runner on second base will help progress the game quicker. And I think that was one of Rob Manfred's biggest points, is how can we improve the pace of the game? The pitching clock I thought was honestly a little bit ridiculous, but I think this is a subtle change that will help. I think comparing it, for instance, to the NFL and their overtime rule that they have is, if you get a touchdown, first team get a touchdown, basically wins. I think this is a little bit better, to be honest, because it does, you do have a runner on second base, so a single more than likely will score the runner. But then again, in the bottom half of that inning, that other team still has the same exact chance that the other team did have. So I think it does progress the game, but also allows it to be a little bit more of a level playing field for each team.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I don't like the rule. I think they should have kept it the same, because I think one of the joys about baseball is the kind of the uncapped potential for long extra innings, even though those don't happen. I think with the runner on second, that diminishes it, because like you said, if the away team doesn't score, then you can just bunt him over third base and then a sac fly. These guys are professionals. They should be able to, in essence, do a sacrifice bunt and then a sacrifice fly, and the game's over.
Yeah.
So I think
actually, can I add on? Sorry to interrupt. Yeah. I saw in summer camp, after the Mariners summer camp, what they did is after 3 outs, they practice a bunt situation.
Right. Yeah. So exactly. So I think when it comes into, if the home team doesn't score, or if the away team doesn't score, then I think it makes it really easy for the home team to score. And like you guys have already touched on, and I brought some stats too. The chances of it going more than 3 innings is slim. I mean, games ending in 1 or 2 innings in 2018, there was 475 games that went into extra innings. Of the 475, 446 ended in 2 innings or 1 or 2 innings. So I think the probability of it going, like you said, 14 or 16 innings is small. But then again, like I would say, like, isn't that part of history? Like, I mean, like, there's only been 4 or 5 games that have gone. Oh wait, sorry. 18 inning games are very rare. In the last 10 seasons, there's only been 23 games that have gone longer than 18 innings. And I think when you have that, I think it's special. And I think when you're at that game, you're like, okay, I went to an 18 inning game, or I was part of that. So I think having a runner on second diminishes that, just because it kind of like doesn't bring in like, oh, we got this runner on second. This is like big because it's already happened. So it's like brings down that climactic feel. And I think, I don't know, that's kind of my take. I mean, maybe I'm a traditionalist in that way that I want to keep it the same.
Mm-hmm.
But I argue that is what makes the game so unique. You know, you don't have to start a guy on second to move him over. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's happened before where games have ended in 1 or 2 innings.
So, Drew, I want you to act as a traditionalist right now,
okay,
just for this argument, debate. Sean, you can pick whichever side you want to be on. But
sure.
So with the runner on second, starting in extra innings, there's so much more strategy that goes into it.
Okay.
From a pitching and from a defensive and offensive standpoint, right? So wouldn't that make it more interesting to see what teams do? Because the pitcher could intentionally walk the guy to create a double play situation. The team could bunt.
Mm-hmm.
Team could steal. There's all kinds of situations that could happen. Wouldn't that make it more interesting from a strategy perspective?
So there are a lot of options you can go from that. But I think my initial reaction would be, wouldn't it be more fun to get a runner on with your own ability? So like say, okay, I haven't been able to get any runners on, and then I finally get this double. And now I have a runner starting on second with my hit. And I feel like that would like bring up the crowd more than, okay, there's going to be a runner on second. Well, he might get it. The player might get intentionally walked. There's a runner on second and first. And then I'll have to, at that sense, I think the team would bunt him over. I think, so what I'm going for is, I think there's more enjoyment from having a clean slate. I mean, then you have the ability to hit yourself on instead of getting like a carry take on second base to begin with. So that's my thing. I think there's more enjoyment and skill that goes into that, getting that runner on with your own hit.
I think you both bring up solid points. I think the strategy perspective is definitely, a great perspective to have, and I think I co-align with both of you guys. I think Drew's perspective. I think, I mean, I remember going to like a 16 inning game, and Kyle Seager, walking it off, and that was amazing. And you've been to that, and you've enjoyed that. It's so worth it. To that point, I think, you kind of do lose some of that. Oh, like I earned this win kind of thing when it goes to extra innings, because it's not your bat that got you to second base. The rules that got you there.
I also want to bring up one more thing. I think, like you said, when you remember the 16 inning game, I think 2 things. One, it's very, like, the chance of that happening is very small. And 2, you said it was a walk-off home run, or you said it was a walk-off hit?
Something, yeah.
Wouldn't you have more enjoyment if that happened less often than, let's say, a sacrifice fly to kind of end the game in the 13th inning or in the 11th inning every single time? Like, let me say this. If the away team doesn't score at all, okay, the home team, what is the best bet for the home team to score? If they already have a runner on second, no outs, what would you guys do? Would you bunt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like you have a chance to, so my thing about this is, you have an ability to make an out and still win the game with this rule. And I don't like that. That's like the NBA finishing on a free throw for me in the All-Star game. Like, there's no, like, I mean, these are professionals. They should be able to hit a fly ball and then, have the fastest guy on third base. Boom, he's in, and that's an out, and you win the game. I don't know. That's my thing.
What if?
No, I hear that.
I think this is never going to happen because I'm not the commissioner. But what if they did a rule run on first base instead of second base? Would you be more okay with that?
I think I'd be less okay with that.
Really?
Yeah.
I think if I'm going to keep my argument strong, I think they have to work for it, and I think. I don't know. I think it's just like because we've seen these games only go 1 to 2 innings at the max. I feel like if they're trying to get the pace of play up, this isn't the problem, because fans that are going to watch the 9 innings already are going to be there for 3 hours. Okay, they're already interested and invested in the game. They're not going to leave because we're going to have to, because there's no players going to start on first base or second base. I think if you're trying to capture fans, you have to do things in the game to speed it up. I don't think changing the extra innings is going to sort of affect that.
So you're saying they should make it a 7 inning games?
No, I'm saying they should. No. 9 inning games. They should speed it up, like with clocks or with the 3-mound pitching. So pitchers have to face a minimum of 3 batters. I think that's a good thing. I mean, I think there's some things bad about it, but then there's some things good about it. One thing let's
talk about that rule.
Okay, can I bring up two last points from the last conversation really quick before we move on? I think posing 2 thought bubbles, let's just say. I mean, how does COVID play a role into this rule? Because if you have a 16-inning game, I mean, that's potentially more exposure to COVID if it's in the air. Who knows? But I'm curious if that was considered, and also, who knows if this will last after the season. I think Drew's point is definitely valid, but also 60-game season, like each game has so much meaning to it, whereas like 162-game season, I mean, in that sense, losing a game early on in the season doesn't really matter. But in the 60-game season, it's much more short, and like each game has so much more implications to it. And so having a game drag on so long, you kind of diminish your player's ability to recover for your next game. So I think I'm curious how that will play a role too. But
I think, I mean, that is true. COVID is definitely there, and I think the best way to minimize it is to have less exposure. But I think it takes away from the game in the fact that that it's not as, I mean, they did some stats. I think this rule is applied in the Japanese or in some league, and they said that there was I think a 51% chance that the home team will win. And I mean, it's still 50-50, but I think there's a better advantage for the home team in this scenario. That's my take.
We want to quickly talk about the minimum facing batter rule for the pitchers.
Yes, let's do that.
What do you guys think about the pitcher requiring to face 3 batters? What do you guys think of that rule?
I enjoy it. I think it's good. This is not showing that I'm a traditionalist anymore, so I'm good with that. I think having the ability it definitely slowed down the game, so just not pacing it up would enhance it. So I'm in agreement.
Okay. Sean?
Yeah, I think I'm on board with Drew. I think it would suck if the pitcher just is terrible and you can't pull them. But I mean, or I guess 3 batter minimum, right? So I mean, I guess you could still get out of it. But I don't think it's a big change, but we'll see how it plays out.
Okay. I have some breaking news. Julio Rodriguez broke his wrist.
Yep, hairline fracture.
Wow. Oh, you guys already saw that. Okay. But anyways,
it's terrible.
It's very bad news, but we're not going to talk about it because the more we dwell on it, the worse it gets.
I think I saw that happening. I think
it was during the feed?
Well, he went off gingerly, but I think he was doing like what you were saying about the pick and he was trying to slide from third base, second to third when they were doing the bunt. I think that's when it happened.
Okay. But anyways, the 3 batter rule for the pitcher, it speeds up the game, which I like, but at the same time, it gets rid of some strategy. I guess I'm taking this traditionalist standpoint now. It takes away some of the strategy, pitchers, and there's no more such thing as a left-hand specialist now. Because all lineups have to do is go right, left, right, left, right, left, and you could never run into that situation anymore. So Marcus Rich Bensky, the former Mariner, his job's pretty much gone. Lucas Aluki, an old lefty Mariner who's pretty good. His job's gone. Who's that guy for the Diamondbacks? The sidearm, I can't remember his name.
Oh, Ziegler? No, Brad Ziegler.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of Ziegler.
But
Ziegler is like a righty specialist, right? I think.
Well, he's a submarine thrower.
Submariner, right?
Yeah.
So we lose some of those specialty guys. Like even Andrew Miller, you could consider almost. He was originally a left-handed specialist, turned into a closer, like a dominant closer. You could even almost consider not Josh Hader. Josh Hader's on another level, but I mean, we lose that special role player position. It's kind of like in basketball, that defensive, like Tony Allen, he only plays defense, and I mean, I think it's okay that if that position goes extinct, it's like not like we're getting, I don't know, it's not too vital of a position, but I think it was a cool position to watch, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's more like they're making the players better or trying to improve the players. So now you're not like, okay, I'm only going to face lefties. This is all I need to work on. Now they have to work on much more in that sense. So I think it will improve everybody else in this game. I like it. I think it also helps you don't burn out the bullpen really early, especially if we are talking about longer extra innings maybe. So you don't burn that out. Right. And so
I think I would have been I'm not like totally like against the rule, but I think I would have even been okay with 2 batters instead of 3, because 3 batters is a lot. That's 3 outs. That's a whole inning if you think about it. And I would have been okay with 2 outs. I think, 1 batter and switching is kind of ridiculous, but I think 2 batters I would have been okay with, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it just ultimately goes back to like slowing down the game. Like if you bring in a pitcher for a left-handed hitter and a right-handed hitter, it just drags on that inning. So in an attempt to, I think, speed up the game, it's probably there. Yeah, it might be noticed.
I agree with that. All right.
Well, I think that closes our MLB discussion. Sean knows a lot about the baseball side of things, so we really want to have him back. Especially, we're hoping to talk about like a PD era. I think that'll be a really cool discussion. And Barry Bonds, does he deserve to be a Hall of Famer?
Sammy Sosa.
And Roger Clemens. Anyways, that would be an interesting discussion. I think we want to have with Sean again, who knows a little about baseball. But anyways, this closes our segment. Any final words, Drew?
Nope.
All right, thanks, Sean. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Thank you.